Welcome to this build tutorial of the Rebel Graffiti frame. Here laid out in front of me are the ingredients to happiness and pure joy. We have our motors. We're building a 6S setup, so we've got some 1800 kV motors. We've got electronics. I'm using the Acon 6S 32K ESC with my favorite flight controller, the Radix. Unify, Crossfire, Immortal T antenna, so we can show that option for mounting. There are several antenna mounting options on this frame. This is one of them that we're going to use. And one of the other more important things that we have is our snacks. And with that, I think we're ready to get started. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take this bottom plate here and we're going to grab some of these longer screws. Now there are two shorter ones, but we have these longer ones here, and we're gonna grab and we're gonna slip them in the outer holes so that they are like this, as such. Then we're going to take an arm, and you'll notice that it's got this bump on it right here, kind of this shelf. That is the front and the back. Now the arms are universal, there are no rights or lefts. There is a right way and a wrong way. Do it the right way, would be my suggestion. Now, you may find yourself when you're assembling this frame that the tolerances are quite tight. So, what you'll do is you'll start off by setting all the arms in how they're supposed to be. Now, it's probably easiest if I set this on the ground, but oh well. And then you're going to take your top plate. Now, you'll notice that there is one side that is chamfered, or there's a bevel on it, and there's one side that is not. First, we're going to start with the side that is not beveled, and we're going to stick him down on there and see if it all fits flush. Now these arms have a recess in them. I should have done one arm then one screw, but you know, 20/20 hindsight. Now there is a recess that the plates sit on the arm, so you may notice how it's not quite sitting on there. You can move the arms around and wiggle them to get that to sit down flush, or you can take a little bit of a file and you can file around the edge of this plate. Now I suggest taking the plate off to do that. Another option is if it's really close, you can flip this plate over so that the bevel, the chamfer, is seating down into the arms, and that will hold the arms out tight against one another. So that's what we're going to do initially here, and you'll see that it's really close and it's starting to seat down on there. Okay, and there you can see that the arms are set into not only the bottom plate, but also this top sandwiching plate as so. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and install our stack posts. Okay, now there you go. So as you're building this frame, you'll probably find that with the hardware, there's all these countersunk options. Now that gives quite a bit of friction of this carbon. It's not as smooth in there, so you don't need to really wrench things down super tight on this frame to make it really stiff and rigid. And you'll see now that just adding those two plates has taken out pretty much all of the flex in the arm, and there is no more slop in either of the arms in any direction. And that's just hand tight, not very tight. So you don't need to crank down on things. You can if it makes you feel better. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. Next thing we're going to do is start to assemble these body runner pieces. And what we're going to do to assemble them is we're going to take our aluminum piece, and you'll see that there are these chamfers. They go on the outsides. There is a right and a left. And you'll take your first piece of aluminum and you'll stick it through such that the holes line up like so. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take one of these little rubber bushings, and these are kind of a vibration isolator bushing that helps to keep the aluminum mated to the carbon with a little bit of a flex point. And you will take one of these short little screws and you will put it through the rubber washer. Now pay attention to the way you put these rubber washers on, because they have a shelf. So one side is a straight hole in and the other side is a chamfer. And so you put the screw in the chamfer side. And these will slip over that little bit of ledge on the aluminum until you tighten them down the rest of the way. All right, there we go. Again, no need to really crank down on these. They're not going to be coming off anytime soon. Now that we have those installed, we're going to go ahead and take this aluminum VTX heatsink plate, and we're going to put it in the VTX video plate. Now that guy is hiding underneath here, and you'll see that there are 4 tiny little holes, and there's a recess for this plate to sit down in. So you're simply going to push him down in, and he's a pretty good little fit. And then on the other side, you're going to take these smaller little screws that are a Phillips head, and you're going to thread them into the aluminum heatsink. Okay, now that he is ready to go, we're going to turn our attention towards some of the prints. Now to get these prints ready, you'll notice that there are some nut traps. So for this piece here, there's 1 nut trap on the top. For the camera print, there's 1 nut trap right in the bottom here. And this plate also, or this print also has a place for 2 standoffs to be inserted. So you'll insert them just in the top 2 areas, and he's ready to go. Okay, now that we have our prints ready to go, we'll insert the last 2 nuts. So first what I'm going to do is I am going to put the electronics on our main board, and then I'm going to attach 1 body runner, and then I'm going to attach the camera plate, I'm going to attach the battery plate print, and I'm going to start to assemble the VTX area. I did have that backwards. So let's get started on that. We'll speed through the electronics here. I've already got them pretty streamlined, so they should drop in there pretty quick. That's ready to go. Now we have our VTX and our RX coming out towards the back here. Now there are several options. You can take this and you can mount it on the bottom of the arm. A lot of people like to put it there, and it works really well. However, I plan on doing a lot of skids, a lot of slides, a lot of contact flying like I said earlier, so I need to have this mounted somewhere else. Now with this setup, I'm not really going for range. With my 6-inch Graffiti, I am wanting to be able to go at least 2 miles out, and I have the regular whip antenna, and I have the active element coming here, and then I have the ground element coming up this side. And with this one, I've been out about 1.5 miles comfortably with no real RSSI warnings. So that is one option. The other option is that you can mount the Immortal T if you want maximum range. Then you will mount the Immortal T on the side of a mount here, somewhat more vertically. That's going to be the most optimal. Where I'm more interested in keeping it in one piece with this quad, I'm going to use the forward tucked in mounts, which are these 2 little guys here. Now the way they work is they replace one of these rubber grommets here. You see they just install right on there like so. And that means the Immortal T is going to be poking through the middle of the quad, and we'll have 1 active element coming out this side and 1 ground element coming out this side, where it'll be nice and protected, but still give us plenty of range. Okay, so let's turn some attention toward our VTX plate area here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to first take our VTX, and we are going to plug him in here where he goes. And then we're going to cut a piece of this mounting tape. And the thinner the mounting tape, the better. This gray stuff seems to do okay at heat transmission, but the little double stick tape that the Unifies come with, for example, is a much better thermal coupling. We're going to stick him right down on there. Now the way that the VTX antenna routes, if you have a little pigtail like this, is you're going to give him just a gentle loop, and then you're going to stick him into the mount. That way the pigtail isn't stressed, it isn't too strained at any of the points, you're not running a risk of popping your UFL off, and he comes out at a pretty nice angle. So I stick him through, and then I like to put the antenna on pretty soon thereafter. And we're looking at this assembly. Now what we're going to do is, like I said, loop that antenna and bring that plate till it sits down on here. And then we're going to grab the shorter flathead screws, these 2 guys, and we're going to sink them up into the nut traps that are part of the print. Now at this point, if you were going to use these antenna tube mounts, you would go ahead and you would insert those antenna tubes. I usually like to get a lighter, and after I stick them in, I will flare the back end so that the tube splays open so they can't come popping out the back. And we're ready to put the camera in and then start putting these body runners on. Okay, now he's in there. There are two options. You can put this on the side here already and then screw it down and then put the whole thing on, or you can do like so and plug the camera and everything in, attach him through this nut trap where he goes, and then proceed to mount the body runners on. And that's the way that we're going to do it, just because of the way that we're routing our Immortal T antenna. Okay, now that we have those guys on, you will see that you can kind of put the antenna about where he's going to sit, and then you'll take your first body runner. We'll start with the left one here, and I'm going to put the power leads through the body runner, and then I'm just going to bring the Immortal T and slide him through the mount. So you'll see he's threaded through that mount that we put on earlier, and we'll just kind of push him up in there to where he's sitting there, and we'll stick that down on. Okay, so there's one. Now, at this point, see, I don't like how this guy's flopping around, so I'm going to go ahead and attach him and then put the other body runner on. You'll see that there's a little hole in the aluminum plate here. All you're going to do is stick your VTX plate down on, and then you're going to grab a Phillips 2mm screw. There are two of them that you'll be using in the kit, and your Phillips driver, which always seems to hide, and you'll screw him down on, and there, that guy is attached now, so he's not flopping all around. Let's go ahead and put the other body runner on. Again, you don't need to really crank these down. If it's going to make you feel better to put some Loctite on those, then you're more than welcome to. I found that the aluminum bites down on that screw pretty well, that I haven't had too many issues. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to find a place for this guy to sit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tuck him down in there, and he's going to ride pretty happy. Next, we're going to put our battery plate brace on, and this part, it's easiest first if you put this first standoff in, and then there is a recess in the print here that this lip slots into. Now, if you've really tightened these top screws down, you're going to have a hard time slipping him in there. Looks like I've even tightened it down one a little too much. There, we'll loosen it back up. Okay, now nobody's going to tell you how you have to wrap your power leads. I've seen some people who cut out a little section here and they poke them out the back and up through the top. I've seen some people route them out through here, then solder on the XT60. There is this option for a battery lead capture. Now you can fit, if your XT60 lead is, or your leads are already soldered with an XT60 on them, you don't need to remove that to put this on. You can simply slip the XT60 up through it, and then there's a place that you can hook the wires. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this down on the wires, and then he uses the two screws here to mount himself. Okay, now you'll see there how I've got all of the things routed. The second to last step we have is to put the plate on. Now there's a toe lock and there's a bite in this carbon, so you insert that in the back, and then he goes down and he goes in between the two body runners. Okay, so before we go ahead and tighten everything down, looks like I forgot that one screw, there's always one in there. We're going to attach the body runners to the bottom plate. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and use these 2.5 millimeter screws. Now, for this screw, you're going to want to use a sharp 1.5 millimeter driver. A lot of cheaper materials will round off after lots of use. I got these ones for like 12 bucks on Amazon. I've been using them for over a year and they haven't gone dull on me yet. So just make sure you get a good driver so you don't round out your head. And then you'll go ahead and screw them up in. And again, you don't need to really torque these down. If you want to, again, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I'm just going to tell you that they don't need a whole lot to keep themselves in there. Alright, so let's go around, make sure all these body screws are now tightened down, just so they're not super loose and falling out. And that is a build. We'll christen him by removing the lens cap and throwing that thing away. So if I were to want to run the Hero 6 camera mount, then what I would do is I would first buy the mount. It comes with a carbon fiber plate. You slip the carbon fiber plate into the back of the mount here, and then instead of chewing the camera all up by making a super tall high friction mount, I found that I absolutely hate that, because then when it's cold and winter I can't get the camera in and out of the mount. So instead what I do is like what I've done on this, and I make the mount so it's a fairly snug fit, but then I just put layers of electrical tape on the bottom, and that provides a pretty smooth surface. It doesn't wear on the camera. It makes it so it's really adjustable. You can really tighten it down, and in the cold months you can remove layers so that it is not an absolute pain to get your camera in and out of the mount. To install it, all you're going to do is loosen these 4 bolts, take them out. The camera mount will clip on in their place. You will reattach that hardware. You'll put the camera in. This is the lens lock. It goes over the lens, and then it clips over that carbon fiber back piece, locking the camera in. For my intentions, I'll just be running the Session with the battery strap that goes around. Now I do have the little Session slip case. You slip over the Session, and it helps to kind of protect the lens and give somewhere for the battery strap to catch on the fret to keep it from ejecting out the front of the quad. So thanks for joining me for this build tutorial. Hopefully you found it helpful. Hopefully I demonstrated some of the options that you can use when you build this quad. Like I said, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. This is just how I do it. So happy flying!